Now shifting over to the 5th Congressional District. Welcome to those who are watching this on spliced videos on YouTube later. My name is Jonathan Cohen. I'm the policy director with Progressive Massachusetts. I believe Jonathan is passed. Yes, okay. Jonathan, you are up. I'm going to put you on spotlight in a second for the first question for this. Just take a couple minutes to answer who you are, why you're running, and all of that you've probably done many a time now throughout the campaign.
Hey everyone, so good to be here among so many amazing allies and activists. My name is Jonathan Paz. I'm running because we need new democratic leadership. Billionaires have rigged our economic system, they have rigged our political system, they have bought themselves a fascist president, and now they seem to want to drag us into another endless war. For us to take our country back, we need bold, unapologetic, democratic leadership in Washington. And from Hakeem Jeffries to Chuck Schumer to Catherine Clark, we're not seeing that. We're seeing instead controlled opposition on behalf of our Democratic leaders. We need leadership that is beholden to the working class, not the donor class. And by that, what I mean is that we have currently leadership that is taking millions of dollars from APAC. They're taking millions of dollars from corporate PACs. We need the greatest reinvestment in our workforce. We need to stop this endless war and actually support the war powers resolutions that Bernie Sanders proposed almost a year ago. And we need to abolish ICE. The last two things that I mentioned could have already happened under Democratic leadership. We could have already stopped, at least put a check into what Trump has been doing, dragging us into Israel's war against Iran. But instead, we've had Democratic leadership let that resolution go unnoticed. We need to make sure that we're defunding and disbanding ICE. And we already had over 21 Democratic House representatives vote with Republicans. And, we continue, there seems to be, with our incumbent, she seems to support endless amounts of money in aid going into Israel, as she has already supported $3 billion going there. I can talk about affordability all day, but if we're going to be dragged into another endless war, things like universal childcare, Medicare for all, things like making sure that we get paid higher wages across from private sector and private sector. All these things go mute if all of our resources as a country go to again hurt people abroad, violate people's rights abroad. So I'm running because we need leadership that is grassroots, it's from the movement, and committed to these the progressive principles that we have been able to align here in progressive Massachusetts, but with other coalitions. Just to close really quickly, I'm an organizer, I'm an educator, I'm a former Waltham city councilor. I grew up in Waltham. I'm the son of Massachusetts. I was thankfully raised and supported by a lot of public school teachers here in the district. And I would love to continue doing the work that we've done, let's say with the Luce Network, where we've taken on fascism and we've pushed them back. I've seen what's possible when we organize and we unapologetically support our neighbors across our many aligned interests. Just to give you a quick note, when we started Force at Waltham, we were just playing defense, but now we have been able to shift to play going on offense and making sure that we're ahead of ICE. We're documenting, we're verifying activity, but we're also supporting our neighbors. We raised tens of thousands of dollars to support our immigrant neighbors. That is just one example of how we can actually not just be this reactionary party that actually is complicit with a lot of the many fascist measures that the president has committed us to, but we can actually, through solidarity, push back and organize and take our country back. So sorry to be long-winded, but it's great to be here with you all.
Okay. You've touched on this a little in what you've said so far, but next for the next question, do you consider yourself progressive? And if so, how do you define the word progressive?
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely consider myself progressive. I was involved with Progressive Mass almost 10 years. 10 years ago, this is why I also went along by the name of Paz, because there was a more famous Jonathan in the political atmosphere. But yeah, I mean, to me, progressive means that you stand with the working class. Malcolm X used to say, when you have to be able to draw the line in the sand. And when you draw the line in the sand, you are either for the working class or the rich, powerful elites. This is not rocket science. When it comes to policies, whether it's public transit, whether it's housing, whether it's a woman's right to choose, we need to stand with the working class. It is a logical delineation where we empower people, we fight for justice, and we do not apologize for breaking up the power, the hegemonic powers that continue to dictate this country, and are unfortunately very rapidly diminishing whatever democracy, sense of democracy that we may have, and whatever rights we may have remaining. So that is what progressive means to me.
Great. And this is something that you touched on, I briefly earlier. Do you support the goal of abolishing ICE? And if so, what does that mean to you in practice?
Yeah, absolutely. I have seen the violence that ICE can commit. When I was 14 years old, I saw my dad be detained and deported. My brother unfortunately had to pay for my dad's expedited deportation because he would have been rotting in a jail cell. That experience was back in 2007. And I've seen the inhumanity that goes along with that type of detention, the brutality that goes with separating families. And that's really why I've committed my life to social justice, is seeing how systemic and how abusive our immigration system is. So when I say abolish ICE, I mean four things. Number one, we need to disband the agency. Number two, we need to um, replace our immigration system with one of immigration justice, where we provide a humane pathway to citizenship for millions of our neighbors who have been abandoned and left vulnerable by our government, by democratic leadership. Doesn't matter, Republican, Democratic administration. Immigrants are a political football, unfortunately, in our country. Number three, it means reinvesting the $170 billion that have been committed to ICE back to the people. That means reinvesting that money to social community programs, to healthcare and housing. And number four, we need to investigate these thugs. There is a there's a historic line of ICE being perpetrators, killing people, violating people's human rights, sexually assaulting people while people are in behind bars. Just it is the inhumanity can we can list this off, but there is no reforming a white supremacist structure that was meant to hurt people. Brutality is and was the point, and we cannot reform such a system.
Okay, and then for the kind of next question, and then I'll tag in a few other questioners. Okay, you thought you had disappeared on video for a sec. That kind of over the past several decades, we've seen increasing corporate consolidation in the country, with various industries concentrated into fewer and fewer companies, as well as growing income and wealth inequality kind of across the country. If elected, what steps would you advocate for to rein in corporate power and reduce economic inequality, both in the district and across the country?
Just last year alone, we saw that in 2025, we saw that the 1% has accumulated as much wealth as the wealth of 90% of Americans. So if you put a room of 100 people, one person has the same amount of wealth as the rest of the 90 people in that room. That is not a sustainable system. That is not democratic, and that is not viable for us to survive climate change. So, to be very quick, we need to tax the rich. That's very clear and obvious, but we need to make sure that we're breaking up these monopolies. We can talk about affordability and trying to rein that in. But if we don't get to the systemic roots of that issue, we will continue going in circles. We need actual answers that will solve this issue, and we need to negotiate all drug prices. Part of what we need while we go for these broader systemic reforms is we need immediate relief. So. When I'm talking about the greatest reinvestment in our workforce since the New Deal, that means green jobs. We're going to have to take that wealth from somewhere. And that means that we're not continuing this war machine, but it also means that we're taking our wealth, our resources back from these billionaires, from these technocrats who think that they can control and manipulate our country and can manipulate the world. We need to bring back those resources back to the people. And that means that we also hold them accountable. So, one part that I would really look forward to as your next congressman from the 5th District would be to investigate these companies and how they actually continue to rig they continue to really exploit consumers because they are the only suppliers. They figured out horizontal integration. They figured out vertical integration. It's a rigged system, and we need to completely dismantle it and actually push forward for what we call a good life economy. In Spanish, that means el buen vivir. We need to not just oppose things, we need to actually provide a vision forward. So, just to kind of wrap this, when I say a good life economy, it means that we can have economic progress not at the expense of the natural world. We can actually live in balance and in harmony with the natural world around us. If you work, you should have rights. You should be able to afford housing, healthcare, education, and maybe time with your family.
Okay, I'm gonna tag in Noah for the next question.
Hey, boss.
Good to
Um,
see you, Noah.
nice to see you too. So what would be your top priorities for addressing our current climate crisis and transitioning us away from fossil fuels?
Absolutely. I think of this in a few different ways, and I think about from a policy standpoint, from also from a messaging standpoint. I'm going to just start from a very policy, but then blanket address it all. We need to decarbonize. We need to become energy efficient. If the war with Iran is teaching us something, is that our energy grid, like we have a bad addiction to these petrochemicals, this very ancient energy source that is only hurting our ability to survive climate change. So we need to transition from this carbon economy, decarbonize. That means supporting a Green New Deal. And it also means supporting a green housing program. So I kind of just summarize it as green jobs because we need to reindustrialize in a way that is sustainable. So I would support making sure that we have the greatest reinvestments to transition, make those energy transitions. We need to make sure that we're putting people to work and have a just transition. That means union jobs, that means higher wages, that means new jobs. And providing, just to give you an example, for a Green New Deal for public housing, which is what Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez and Senator Sanders have proposed. It would be a 10-year program, essentially investing $172 billion to modernize and decarbonize over a million public housing units. That is like one example, right? Whatever actually provides the opportunity for us to reinvest in our infrastructure, to transition away from fossil fuels, invest in solar energy, actually provide the opportunity for us to create jobs along the way. I'm absolutely in favor of that, and this can't come at a time when, we're just doing the opposite, and we're instead destroying and polluting our environment by bombing people in the Middle East. So these things are all connected, but I just want to just very clearly say we need to revolutionize our energy grid. We need to revolutionize our workforce and reindustrialize in a way that is sustainable with the planet. Um, yeah, I can go on. Thank you.
No worries, Max. I'm gonna tag you in for the next question.
Hi, so in light of discriminatory anti-trans legislation on both the state and federal level, in Congress, would you fight for transgender people, especially trans youth? Because speaking from experience, we are one of the populations facing the most adversity currently. Not to, do oppression Olympics, but um, but if so, how would you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just want to say, first and foremost, I don't know about a tent, but I know about a movement. And in a movement, we have each other's back. We need to have each other's back. And this Democratic Party, like the very establishment corporate Democratic Party, has been too comfortable picking and choosing and scapegoating people as the reason why we lost 2024, the reason why these corporate political hacks don't seem to resonate with real working people. I will have your back, and I will make sure that we are enshrining your right for gender affirming care, that we stop, whatever the amount of state legislation that is against going after trans folk. And we need a federal level policy to make sure that we're protecting from your ability to have a right to housing, from your ability to have health care, from your ability to not be discriminated upon. Every level of society, you should have absolutely an equal right and opportunity, and if anything, more. Because this is such a we're starting at a negative, right? We're not starting at some kind of like equal footing. So it is a political reality that trans folk have been scapegoated. I would also support Senator Markey's legislation to support this, but we need to go further. And one thing that I really appreciated from what Congresswoman Presley has done around student debt abolition is using our platform to educate, to bring in people along the way. And that's something that I personally want to do is I think we need to build awareness. We need to build in coalitions so then it doesn't seem like it's like some like flank of the party. Like this is, we are the party of um, the working class, and the working class looks many different ways. So I would love to support that legislation. I would love to make sure that we're using this platform to communicate, to educate, and to organize, and we're making sure that we deliver and hold the line. Because yeah, it's either all of us or none of us.
Okay, Ziva, I'm gonna bring you up for the next.
Hey, Jonathan, how you doing?
Ziva, a long time.
I know. I'm foreign policy. Um, you've been clear about opposing the war in Iran in this call. It's also true many Democrats have voted for the war powers resolution and the war, but immediately following have supported resolutions labeling Iran the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, a vote that could be used to justify military action. Would you vote to stop funding for the war? What do you think should happen next? And would you support lifting or reducing sanctions on Iran as part of a negotiated solution?
Yeah, as the person who carries the last name of peace, that's what PAS stands for. I would love to honor that in my lifetime, and I would love to answer the question. John F. Kennedy said, humanity's greatest question is peace. Peace in our times, peace in all times. And I take that very seriously. I think that we have this addiction of, just to be very, very specific, I would oppose funding the war machine. I would oppose using taxpayer dollars to continue a genocide in Gaza, and to continue a systemic annihilation of the Iranian people. Um, it, it's it's a shame that we all have to carry that the first act of aggression was this presidency bombing a school with 120 plus children. Like, what is this all about? Like, what's the point? So no, I would not further impose sanctions. I would, if anything, push for removing sanctions. Sanctions never help working people. They don't. If there's differences between governments, sanctions only hurt the very vulnerable populations in a civil society. So no, I would not continue the war machine. I would not send. If anything, we should follow our own laws, and I would push for us to actually follow the Leahy Law, which prohibits us from sending further aid to countries that are systemically violating human rights across the world. And yeah, again, we need to talk about this very, very clear-eyed. The war lobby controls a lot of the Democratic Party, and we also need to be vocal about that. So while let's say Catherine Clark says she doesn't understand the point of this war, she in leadership, being the second most powerful Democrat in the House, will not commit to stopping sending further aid to this endless war. So this is the double speak, this is the dishonesty, and this is an insult to the intelligence of the American people that we cannot say the full truth. We always have to speak in half truths and never actually go all the way in saying that we can be a party for peace with justice and actually empower our people here and have very prosperous relationships with countries abroad and not be a world hegemonic power that continues to promote violence and atrocities across the world.
Thanks, John. One follow-up Also, thank you for being clear. I'm not going to ask about whether you think the situation in Israel's actions in Gaza and the West Bank are genocide. You've been clear about that. I want to make sure that we're clear on would you vote? You said you'd vote to end weapons. Does that include both offensive and defensive weapons to Israel?
Yeah, both.
Okay. And
Y-
then, yeah,
yeah.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be a settler. You can't have a settler project and say you're playing defense. If you're occupying a land, like that is just fully offensive.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to pivot a little bit to something that I think people have wondered about in your background. You've been really vocal in your opposition to ICE. You did work for an organization whose flock safety, whose company, whose their surveillance technology has been used by ICE, and we wanted to give you an opportunity to explain that inconsistency.
Thank you. Yeah. Um, yeah, I took a bullshit job, I wasn't aware of the job that I took. So I came out of COVID, um, with this optimism in technology, and I wanted to transition to the tech sector. And I took this role with this company that said that they help find missing people. And they said they were very committed to transparency. So I took the first tech job that I could. Turns out that I was joining the biggest surveillance network of license plate readers in the country. And what I saw there terrified me, and it taught me a hard truth that these private companies, surveillance companies, are their role is really just to make it easier to spy on every American. It's really a way to bypass public scrutiny. So I do plan on speaking on this. I wrote an op-ed but I'm very appreciative of the question. It is a very valid critique. I think it's like a stain on my resume, but it's something that it's knowledge and awareness that I'm planning to use to resist the surveillance industrial complex that seems to be only growing. I want to just say that I am a proponent of restoring the Fourth Amendment and making sure that our right to privacy is keeping up with the advancements, the rapid advancements in technology that are only being used right now to, hurt hurt activism, hurt people's civil rights, and also they're being used right now for other ways to control and manipulate people. So, yeah, I'm happy to use my experience, and I've seen what's behind the curtain. And ironically, Waltham is an incredible example of how you shouldn't trust these companies, because Waltham, the Waltham Police Department acquired Flock through their forfeiture fund and completely bypassed the public process. They didn't even tell anybody. They just cameras showed up. So let me just backtrack before I go there. I quit Flock. I left Flock in last summer. I didn't sign an NDA. I left hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table in equity, and I refused the severance. I knew that it was a bad deal, and my biggest concern was that they were going to partner with the Department of Homeland Security. And guess what they did? The month after I left, they ran a pilot with DHS. So, it goes to show that these companies, yeah, these companies cannot be trusted, and you do not need broad surveillance to actually provide public safety. But yeah, just to close the note on Waltham, it's a emblematic part of the issue. Right now, we're working to take down these cameras, and our mayor is pretending as if we can just write a resolution when we should just take down these cameras. We don't have an ordinance curving or putting safeguards. We don't have even a very strong policy from our police department. They completely bypassed the public, and quite frankly, just started surveilling people. So it's a problem here. It's a problem across the Commonwealth, and I'm hopeful that we will be able to have some kind of push congressionally, nationally, to actually restore the Fourth Amendment and be able to provide these safeguards against all of these hurtful technologies.
Thanks, John.
Okay, so for a final question, since we're running kind of a bit over time, so we here at Progressive Mass are in the midst of discussing our endorsement process for different races, and we're curious to hear, turning over to you, how do you decide when and whether to endorse candidates, whether from your experiences doing that as a city councilor or just in general.
So just to understand, like, when do I decide to endorse somebody?
How do you decide when and whom to endorse candidates? What is your rubric or match kind of assessment for endorsing candidates yourself?
Yeah, I think my silver lining is always like, sorry, my North Star is always, is this like cutting edge? Is this the fight that's actually going to move things? Is this like a place where I can be useful and helpful? And I think yeah, whenever we have an opportunity to take on leadership, when we have to take on these systemically entrenched, either at the local government power centers or the state government, we should, and we should absolutely, even if the odds are against us, we should always push the envelope, hold the line, and actually be a beacon for resistance, for organizing, and for progressive vision and a path forward. So I've done that in a variety of ways, from working with Senator Eldridge when when we took on a Republican who out fundraised us threefold, but also when let's say when we had let's say the option between Governor Healy and Senator Chang Diaz. Some of us knew back then that we could have actually had stronger progressive values in the helm at the State House, and we're seeing that right now, the limitations of what Governor Healy is doing, where she refuses to end our biggest 287G agreement in Massachusetts, which is with the Department of Corrections. So yeah, there are very important times when history relies on us to be clear-eyed, and we need to be bold and brave to meet the moment.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jonathan, for joining us. Can we get a round of Zoom applause for Jonathan?